Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Post Up with David Grubb here on Book Media. I'm David Grubb. Thank you for joining me. I know a lot of folks going to be out celebrating Mardi Gras, as we get closer and closer to the day next week. So I know a lot of folks are outside having a good time. But for those of you who are starting to come into the room, I appreciate you joining me. Make sure you hit the like button, and all the rest. Subscribe, follow, do those things. We're going to talk about the Pelicans as we have hit the All-Star break. The Pelicans only slightly better than they were at this time a year ago. Obviously, we know about the two consecutive poor starts by the team, how badly the year started, and where the Pelicans are now. We've had the coaching change from Willie Green to James Borrego. You've had controversies with the handling of Jordan Poole. It's a difficult time, obviously, to be a Pelicans fan as you reach the All-Star break. There is not a lot of optimism for what's going to happen over the final 30 games of the season. The Pelicans essentially, at 26 games, excuse me, the Pelicans essentially, if you want them to get to the win total that Sports Illustrated set aside for them at 31 and a half, that means they've got to win 17 of these last 26 games. 17 out of 26. That's difficult. 17 out of 26 is a difficult proposition. We shall see. But what I do want to talk about is first let's talk about the game last night as the Pelicans lost to the Miami Heat for the sixth consecutive year at home. And the Pelicans are one of these teams, like they are one of the few teams that I can even think of right now where they have significant losing streaks against several teams, like long, complete, and total losing streaks, whether they're at home, whether they're uh, whether they're on the road. It has not mattered. The Pelicans have these really long losing streaks against teams, and Miami is another one. And it hasn't mattered what style of play Miami has done because we've seen Miami be deliberate and physical with the Pelicans. We've also seen them put up 120, 130 plus on this team multiple occasions over the last couple of years. It's not, and there was a question, and somebody says, sometimes is it just the team gets you? And Antonio Daniels, I think, had the correct response. I would agree with what he said 100%. And that he said, no, it doesn't make sense because the players are constantly changing. You have the kind of movement that it doesn't make sense that year after year you keep losing to the same team. But the Pelicans have that kind of losing streak against the Orlando Magic. They have that kind of losing streak against the Miami Heat. They have that kind of losing streak they've had. Like it just goes on and on. Oklahoma City is now like on 7 years without a win. Denver is on like 4 years without a win. So even in good times, like we're talking about just the last 2 years have been this abhorrent state of basketball affairs. Even in the years prior to that, they still had these significant losing streaks and the lack of long winning streaks. Again, in the last 5 years now, since Willie Green took over and in through this season, the Pelicans have had exactly 4 winning streaks of at least 5 games. Only one longer than 5 games, and that was a 7-game streak. That's the kind of mediocrity you're trying to get out of for all the reasons. There are folks who are going to be in the chat and they're going to say it's injuries. They've gotten cursed with injuries. They've gotten cursed with incompetence. They've gotten cursed with bad coaching. They've gotten cursed. None of those are curses. Those are bad decisions for the most part. Injuries are a combination of things. The organization has some culpability. Players have culpability, all those things. But overall, you're just getting factor after fact. This team is mediocre at every level. You have mediocre ownership, you have mediocre front office, you have mediocre talent by and large, and you have mediocre coaching performance. So how would you expect anything else? And last night you saw more of the same. The Pelicans should have been excited. They should have been they had a chance to extend a winning streak to 3 games on their home floor before the All-Star break. So you could let all the energy that you have go on the floor. Whatever you can do, you can go into this game and be exhausted knowing you left it all on the court. You're playing against a team that's down 2 significant players. You're as healthy as you've been all year going into this game, and the other team is missing 40 points of offense, and you still let them put up 120 on you. You still came out in the first quarter with no life and had to scratch your way back into the game by the end of the first quarter. You played pretty decent in the second quarter, go into halftime, come out, and you do exactly what you did in the first quarter, which is not play defense, take poor shots, fail to make layups, and so on and so forth. And then by the time you get to the fourth quarter, there's nothing worth doing. It was embarrassing because just when you start to get faith, just like in the first half, they start getting on a run. You think they're going to really start rolling, and then it's just bad decisions, turnovers, poor defense. Whatever momentum you're trying to build, you kill it with your own mental and physical mistakes. You don't box out. You don't close out possessions. You allow Miami to get chance after chance. You don't close out on shooters. You allow people to get into a rhythm. Jaime Jaquez is driving to the bucket with reckless abandon. Davion Mitchell driving to the bucket. Everybody understands that against the New Orleans Pelicans, they are a donut. Whatever defense they have at the top, once you get past that, there is nothing in the middle. There is no rim protection. There is no paint protection. There is no perimeter stoppers. You look at that team and you see them again and again and again. And every time you want to have a little bit of faith, every time that you want to think maybe they're starting to figure it out and build some momentum. That was a game last night that they had to win. And they didn't win because of the way that they played. It was on them. The refs weren't good. The refs were bad. The refs were bad. But that wasn't why the Pelicans lost that game. We lost the game because of all the things that we've talked about through this entire portion of the season. They can't do the little things. You can't be successful if you keep skipping over the little things. The Pelicans had been a very good team at taking care of the basketball this month, and then they stopped taking care of the little things against Miami. The Pelicans had been a decent rebounding team the last couple of months. They got killed on the offensive glass against Miami. And you can't say that Miami has the better disciplined players or Miami had players who were going to kill them in certain spots. The reason that they can kill people in certain spots, the reason why Davion Mitchell is getting to the bucket is because nobody is defended out on the perimeter. Trey played terrible defense. Zion played terrible defense. Derek Queen is unplayable on the defensive end right now. Just like completely unplayable. The Pelicans are getting demolished in his minutes on the floor. We'll talk about the rookies a little bit more in a minute. But the Pelicans are not as good a team as you want to believe at times. Like they have some good wins, yes, but they've always been able to grab a few upsets over the course of a season. They've always been able to do that. This is the NBA. It's going to happen. But we put so much stock in what happens in the spikes that we forget to pay attention to what they consistently do. And that's what we have to pay attention to, is what do they consistently do? And what they consistently do is underperform. There are reasons for that. Certainly you allow a certain amount of leeway for rookies, even though we'll get in, again, we'll talk about this, is just their performances have started to become very inconsistent. You've not seen the improvements of your bench is thinner than it's ever been because you have players that are now sitting down who you are paying significant amounts of money to, and you don't know if they're ever going to get off the bench again. There's still no real timetable for DeJounte Murray. At the last update 4 days ago, they said there was no timetable. He hasn't practiced, 5-on-5. He hasn't run full court with his teammates yet. They're not going to put him out there until they do that. This is the New Orleans Pelicans. We've seen how they handle these things. So until they say he's 2 weeks away, he's not even a month away, right? and they haven't announced any timetable for him. Jordan Poole, it doesn't look like he will ever play another game, whether the Pelicans can trade him right now or not. They seem to have decided that because last night after Trey Murphy goes down, Jordan Poole sat right where he was. Now, you can go back to the day Zion Williamson was drafted. I'll tell you, the same problems that plagued the Pelicans then are the same problems that plague them now. They're too short. They've been that for several years. They're not tough. Every coach that's come to the Pelicans since 2019 has said they're trying to establish some level of physical toughness. They've all said it in different ways, whether it's we've got to play with force, whether it's we got to make them feel us, whether it's whatever it is. Every coach has come in and said, I want to establish some physicality for the New Orleans Pelicans as a franchise, and it has failed over and over again. And no, they have never had enough consistent shooting. Whenever they have gotten a couple of players to shoot, then a couple others won't. Either it's always a combination. It's both the lack of number of threats and the lack of willingness of players to shoot three-point shots. If everybody took one more a game than they're taking right now, the Pelicans could close that gap that they have with teams on a nightly basis. They refuse. Guys just flat out refuse to take shots. The ball stops moving. Still, so often, you put guys out there and the shots that they do take, again, the Pelicans refuse to take the most efficient shot. Last night, they were 4 of 8 on corner threes. You saw the percentage on the rest of them. But they only took 8. That's the shot that guys have to be in position to take. The ball has to move. Jeremiah Fears shouldn't be shooting threes above the break. He could be shooting them in the corners. Derek Queen should not be shooting threes above the break. He should be shooting them in the corners. This lack of understanding of basketball IQ from this roster, it hasn't mattered who the coach has been. You cannot find the combination of players that can do what any of these coaches has been through. And they've all been mediocre coaches, but what their asks have been, at least has been some level of physicality. And that is a personal commitment that a player has to make. That's not something you can be coached into. You don't have to tell guys if you have to coach a guy up to be intense, that's a much bigger problem than having to rein him in, right? What kind of football player? What kind of pitcher? What kind of, whatever somebody has to be the leader of your team, wouldn't you rather have to dial them back and say, hey, do you want Kevin Garnett level energy that you got to calm down? Or do you want a player that you have to, like Zion, quite frankly, who never seems to give you the level of energy that a leader will give his team? The Pelicans have a lot of problems still, and they can't be corrected overnight. And that continues to be evident at the break. All right, a quick update on Trey Murphy. The shoulder injury that he suffered last night doesn't seem to be serious by all indications, both from the Pelicans and whatever sources that have reported so far. They expect Trey to be back after the All-Star break. That's good news because, again, as we just saw in the comments, they don't have a lot of shooting threats. Trey has been upping his three-point attempts at this point in the season. And, he's been their best player over the last 2 months in particular. The rookies, they'll both be playing this weekend in the All-Star festivities on different teams, of course. Man, the problem I've had with the rookies now, and again, you can't take any of this out of context when you think about next year's draft, because what you are telling me, again, in this year's draft is that these two guys are the equivalent of any of the top 3 players we're talking about in this year's draft. That's what you're telling me. And that has to be kept as part of the context of this and where we are with both of these players. Jeremiah Fears, we'll start with Jeremiah Fears. Starts after his second game in the NBA and started a long time, obviously, and then recently goes back to the bench. He has been playing better this month. But I want to just give you this is just the points per game. I'll tell you more as we go along into it. But in October, Jeremiah Fears, 13 points a game. November, his peak, 16.1. December, he hits the wall, 12.3. January, he's on the bench. January still starting 11.8. And this month in February, now that he's gone to the bench, his points are down to 11.4, the lowest it's been this season. Okay. His decision making has improved. His effort on the defensive end has improved. He is not, at one point, he was the biggest liability on the court for the Pelicans. He is not that anymore. But as you can see, these are the perils of having a 19-year-old point guard. Okay. It takes time. And we still have not established what kind of point/lead guard Jeremiah Fears is going to be. Because the problem with Fears offensively is he's not a consistent outside shooter. He's been better than advertised, but he's not consistent there, as 1 for 7 last night. Shows you there's been a lot of those from outside. He's not a great finisher. In fact, he's one of the worst finishers in the NBA, statistically speaking. The Pelicans have a lot of bad finishers. Okay. But Jeremiah Fears is by far the worst finisher on the roster. The other three rank in the top 40: Herb Jones, Jordan Poole, and who's the fourth? I'm trying to remember right now. Herb Jones, Jordan Poole, and I think it was Messi, or I think it was Messi. He was struggling, or somebody. But those are the two at the top. So Jeremiah's been really, really poor offensively, but is getting better with his decision making. Okay, I think, and I still am confident that Jeremiah will get better because he is, as I talked about earlier, one of those players that you're more likely to have to rein in than have to get him to be in the gym. I don't think there's any question that Jeremiah Fears will be in the gym. He needs to get stronger. He should be a freshman in college right now. He needs to get stronger. That will improve his finishing. He needs to judge speed better. Like you've seen some improvement with him changing speeds, but he needs to, again, be able to see the court. And part of that is learning how to move quickly without going too fast. He's got to know when it's how much space he has on the court and where guys are going to be. There were a couple of shots, a couple of points last night. Zion's really starting to get it going. Pelicans starting to get on a run. Zion, bucket, 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 bucket. And then there were a couple of sequences where the Pelicans are in transition. And one, he goes to the left to Bey in the corner to shoot a three when Zion's on his right, which would have been a wide open dunk, which again would have set the crowd, the momentum even higher. You get Zion involved, which you saw again, his level of effort peaked and valleyed over the course of the game. He did that on another sequence. He had Zion again, missed it. And those will come with time and experience. But that's what I'm saying. Those are the things he has to develop. The other part of it, too, is he's got to develop his mid-range game. Because if you're struggling at the rim, then he's got to be able to take one dribble, hard fake, and take the jump shot inside the three-point line, especially when he knows he's not making his jumper out beyond the arc. If you can't make that 18-footer as a 6'3" player in this league, like that's a problem. That's a shot he should be able to make, and he's not taking it at all. Yes, mid-range shots are not in volume good shots. In volume. But he needs to be able to put the ball on the floor, one or two dribbles, pull up, and take a shot if you can't get to the rim against a bigger player. if you don't have the kind of operating space to finish with a layup and there's nobody else to kick it to. Sometimes you got to be able to take that shot, and he has not. But these are all things that he can get better with, and I feel like he will get better. The question is, are you going to let him run your offense, or are you going to let him beat your offense? Because he is much better as a scorer than he is a creator for himself and others. You allow him to do what he wants to do, he can score. But he struggles to set up his teammates on a consistent basis unless they're in transition. He can do a couple of things in a half court every now and then, but you don't see many of his assists coming in those positions. And that's the struggle. He's not great at reading a pick and roll yet and creating for guys there. He's not great at throwing lobs yet. So those things have to improve. But I think that the feeling is still that the Pelicans need him, that Jeremiah Fears can't improve. And I think he can. It's just, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to put the kind of complementary pieces? And one of those means you have to have a legitimate guard, not a forward playing guard, in the backcourt with him. Somebody with real length, somebody 6'5", 6'6", at the second guard position with him, who can be a physical presence, play some defense, and knock down catch and shoot threes. And yeah, that sounds like, oh, that's easy. Let's go get one of those. I don't know where you're gonna find it, but you don't have enough creation either. Like I said, look, they need a legit facilitator. Absolutely, they need somebody who can look. You can't, and we'll talk about Derek Queen next, but you can't keep relying on Derek Queen right now to be your half-court facilitator, because it takes away from his aggressiveness as an offensive player. He's not Jokic level efficient offensively to have the ball in his hands that much. Like Joker, you go look even at his rookie numbers. Joker was a difference maker on both ends of the floor. You say he's not a great defender, but even the defense was better with him on the floor because he was always smart. You don't have to be a great athlete to be a great defender. Your Joker was always smart, and he was always efficient. Those are not things that you can currently say about Derek Queen. And you can also not say that Derek Queen competes possession to possession. If you go look at it quarter by quarter, Derek Queen is the worst player on the team in the first quarter. He's one of the worst in the second quarter. He's better in the third quarter, and he's a positive in the fourth. He's a positive player in the fourth, but he is the worst player by far in the first quarter. Why does it take? And this is consistent. You can go look month to month. He does not get off to good starts. What was his best quarter? It was a fourth quarter where he put up those historic numbers. Nobody had ever done that in one quarter. He did it in the fourth. Look at a lot of his games. His best quarters come in the third and fourth quarter. Right? Consistently, Derek Queen plays better after halftime than he does in the first half. That has to change, because we see consistently the Pelicans are at a deficit early on in ball games, and everyone in the league knows that you can drive right by him, that he has no resistance. He will foul you. He will not defend you. You will get to the bucket when he is on the floor. And when he has the ball offensively, when he is out beyond the arc, teams know he's not going to shoot it, because he's shooting less than 20% from three. So if he's missing that much, he can't stand out there and be the facilitator all the time. You look at a guy like a Draymond Green. Draymond moves to the mid post. Draymond moves to the extended elbow. Draymond is in different places. He's doing dribble handoffs. He's cutting and moving. That's not what Derek Queen does when he's above the three-point line. He's looking. And if he sees his pass over the top, he throws it. But he's not doing Joker-type movement and manipulating the defense. He's not creating passes off the dribble all the time. So that stalls the offense, because the ball's not moving around the perimeter, because Derek's boom, 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 looking. And this is, again, These are things you need to understand about his game to get him better because he does not also look, you don't have a single player on this team taller than 6'9" who has a post. So when Derek Queen never posts up, all of his points, you have him and Zion attacking the defense in basically the same way. I have to get up top. I have to drive right down to the paint. I know what I was about to say, and he has to drive to the bucket, and defenses know that's the only way that they're going to score. So either Derek is going to do his one-legged floater, or he's going to get to the rim, they know where he's going to be. He doesn't have a back-to-the-basket game. He doesn't really shoot a turnaround jumper that often. His catch-and-shoot game in the mid-range at the free throw line has not been great. These are rookie things, but now let's go back to those numbers. So Derek Queen doesn't get off the bench much in October, 8 points a game. November, 13 points per game. December, 15 points per game. That's his peak, right? Since January, 10 points per game. This month, 12 points per game. And his defense has gotten worse and worse each month. Not better, worse each month. They continue to get killed in his minutes on the defensive end. Do you think that the 13th pick is worth the opportunity to have a franchise-changing player in this year's draft? You have to tell me. You have to tell me for certain that you think Derek Queen is going to be an all-NBA player. Because these guys at the top of this draft, there's a reason 10 teams are tanking. I have more concerns about Derek Queen because the main concerns were coming out of college. What were the two concerns? His motor. And we thought he had a motor, but that motor has not been around for the past month and a half. His defense was a question. It's still the question's bigger now. And you're also asking this young man to develop a post game because he has to. He has to. It doesn't have to be his primary way of scoring, but he has to have some back to the basket game. He cannot survive in this league with no back to the basket game. Got to have some kind of spin, got to have a counter, got to have an up and under, something. The stuff that you learned in 9th grade, doing Mikan drills and those types of things. He has to get back to that. And he's got to play like he gives a damn and every night. He's got to come out at the start of the game and initiate contact with the opponent. He has to establish with the referees that he's there to play physically, just like these rest of these centers come and establish that with him. Agree. If he cannot figure out the post, he's a 6'9" Zion with no athleticism. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And for the Pelicans rookies at their peak impact in November, you were getting almost 30 points a game from your rookies in November. Borrego takes over, gives them an opportunity. November, December, you're getting 29.2 and 27.3 points from your rookies. The last 2 months, you're getting 22 and 23 points per game from your rookies. They have fallen off. It's the only thing now is it's clear that the front office decided it made a mistake, right? Because if they hadn't, wouldn't be trying to get back into the draft. If they were content with what they had done, remember that Joe Dumars said it on draft night. Everybody asked me, say, "I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about next year." Everybody was saying, "I'm not worried about next year." Got 15 wins. You got 15 wins. And now you are desperately trying to get in back into the draft. You're trying to get back into the draft, and you missed your opportunity at the deadline to offload some of this bad talent because you think you have a playoff team. And you can't beat an undermanned Miami team at home, and you're telling me you have a playoff team. And you don't have a bite at the apple in what could be the biggest draft in 15 years. 15 years. And you don't have a franchise player. You are a franchise without a franchise player. I want to talk about Zion for a second, because this is, like I said, there's been this noticeable fall off for Zion. The rest of the starting lineup, you've seen Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey went from 9 points in October to a high of 21 points in January. He's at 17 points here in February. You got more than you ever wanted. More than you expected out of Sadiq Bey. And we'll talk about the awards for that in a minute. Trey went for 14 points per game in October, 22 points per game in November, 22 in December, 24 in January, 27 in February. But here's where Zion goes. 23 and a half, 21, 23 and a half, 20, 21. Where's the impact? Here's another one. His points per minute over the course of his career. And you'll see the correlation here. Here's the correlation. Zion's points per minute, his rookie year, almost 8.81 points per minute as a rookie. His second year, he sets his personal best with 1,647 points in his second year. All-star, his points per minute, 0.813. 0.813. He gets hurt. He comes back the next year. Of course, there's going to be some drop-off because he's coming off an injury. 7, 8, 9. But then the 49-win season, the efficiency really starts to drop. Points per minute drops all the way to 0.725. Then last year, and I think everybody would agree, last year was the best possible Zion we saw when he was healthy. He was playing defense. He was active. He put up the best defensive numbers of his career last year and the third highest offensive numbers of his career as far as efficiency went. But his points per minute had jumped up to a career high 0.860. He was almost scoring. He's getting closer to averaging 1 point per minute. This year, it's dropped all the way back down to 0.727. He's scoring efficiently. His field goal percentage is up. It's the highest it's been since 2022. His field goal percentage is the highest it's been since then. But his impact is down. He's playing the worst defense of his career. His steals are down. His blocks are down. His assists are down. 2.5 assists a game. His rebounding is down 2 a game. He's not impacting the team this year the way he has in years before. And he still won't grab the mantle of leadership. In that game against Miami, he gives you that faith in a minute, like that belief in a minute. There was a point in that game where you almost, and I posted on just the Pookie from New Jack City meme, but him throwing the crack pipe at the last second, being tempted to smoke it, but throwing it. Zion was doing that for a stretch of game last night. He was that crack again, and it was calling. And then he disappeared again. And he disappeared again. And it's like, if that's your franchise player, you don't have a franchise, right? If that's what you're building around nothing. You're just building around a guy. You're building around Zach LaVine. You're building around, like, that's what you're doing. You're building around somebody who can give you empty calories. He's like having a foreign sports car in the streets of New Orleans. You can bring that thing out every once in a while. But you ain't gonna open it up on those streets. It's like, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. It's pretty to look at. It's fun to have, but it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And that's the problem with Zion Williamson at this stage. I wrote an article last year. Incredibly talent, undeniable talent, and incredible risk. And he remains that. Undeniable talent, incredible risk. Until you have a franchise player, we're just messing around here. We're just messing around here. Until you have a franchise player, all you're doing is just trying stuff. You're holding it down till you find that guy. It's just like about you don't have a starting quarterback in the NFL. If you don't have a legitimate quarterback, you got nothing. You don't have a franchise quarterback, you got nothing. That's the New Orleans Pelicans. Right now, you have the opportunity to build something if you really want to build something. But if you're chasing something, you ain't gonna get it. And that's what it feels like. The Pelicans always chasing credibility, just like the Sacramento Kings. Like, you can't chase that stuff. You build for success. And sometimes it doesn't work and you tear it down and you start all over again. But you're going to sit here now as the Pelicans, and where are you in the firmament of the NBA? Because you can't get any worse than what you've been over the last 2 seasons. It can't get much worse than this. And it can't get good enough. Like, what are they going to be next year? You're going to be hyped up because they get to be 4th in the division? 4th in the division? The Spurs are positioning themselves to be a championship level team now. Stephon Castle made the jump to legitimate threat. Victor is making a jump to MVP. Not just could he be MVP? He will probably be the MVP this year. So you ain't getting past them. They sent everybody away in Dallas because Cooper Flag has proven that they don't need to wait for Anthony Davis to get healthy. Have their franchise player. Houston, they have enough pieces. They may not have their franchise player yet. But they got enough pieces to be better than the Pelicans. So what do the Pelicans have? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do the Pelicans have? You have some interesting nights, but you don't have a team that's going to be legitimately competitive in the Western Conference. And you see teams, the Timberwolves making moves. Utah, they're tanking to get back into the lottery, but Utah has a better legitimate future looking at that roster with the trades that they've made for next season. Are you going to be better than Utah? You're not. Are you going to be better than Portland next year when Dame comes back healthy and they still got Drew and they still got Shaedon Sharpe and they still got – are you going to be better than Portland? You don't have a franchise player. You ain't got a franchise. You ain't got a franchise player. You ain't got a franchise. It's that simple. Everybody else who's in competition for a championship can identify who their franchise player is, and they're building around that person consistently. New Orleans Pelicans don't have a franchise player. You ain't got no all-star. You ain't got no all-NBA player. What you got? All right, we're going to do the awards, and then we'll get out of here. Like I say, y'all go out and enjoy the weekend, of course, and not worry about this stuff for a few days. And, of course, we'll be back next week. But first, we'll do our awards. Very quick, I'll say the Rookie of the Year for me is still Jeremiah Fears. I thought he was going to be the Pelicans' best rookie before the season. I think he still is. Like I said, Derek Queen's fall off since December has been way more noticeable than Jeremiah Fears' improvement. But that, I think Fears has lived up to what he should be at 19. You're a little more disappointed in what Queen has done lately compared to Fears, I think. If I'm saying the Pelicans MVP of this point of the season, I'm giving it to Trey Murphy just on the fact that Trey has had some huge scoring nights, even in defeat, and has been one of the more versatile players in the league. Again, he's on pace to get 200 dunks and 200 threes, which would be crazy. Like, that's not something that gets done very often. So I'll give it to Trey because I think the newcomer and the sixth man, even though he's not a sixth man anymore, would both go to Sadiq Bey to me. Like, Sadiq Bey obviously has been the best addition to the team this season, as far as his consistency, his level of professionalism, and he's really the guy with the most toughness on this roster on a night-to-night basis. I'll give Kevon Looney credit for being professional as well. Played 4 games since January, but he's shown up, and those types of things. But defensive player, I'd have to give it to Yves Missi. He's been the best defender on the Pelicans this season, the most active defender as well. There ain't no coach this year. There's no coach of the year for the Pelicans. I mean, you certainly ain't giving it to the guy who get fired, and you're not giving it to um, uh, the interim guy. I think Sadiq. I don't. You can't give a guy most improved of the team from last year to this year. Like, that's could be a candidate for the NBA. I'm talking about just within the team. So he wasn't a bad player when he left. I don't think that the level of improvement for him is within the team that high. So I would say probably for improvement, if we talk about most improved from last year to this year, I'd give it to Carlo, because Carlo was unplayable defensively last year, and Carlo now has played himself, considering his value. Carlos played himself into being an interesting back of the rotation player. Still not consistent enough to be, getting heavy minutes, but I think Carlo has shown the ability to do some of those things. I wish Eve could get some more minutes. I think Eve deserves some more minutes. And I think, yes, he could absolutely he could claim that title too as the most improved player along with defensive player. Um, with those two guys, I think, yeah, both Carlo and Eve have come along farther than I think we expected them to in the offseason. I thought, but that tells you also, again, you get nothing. That's the thing for the Pelicans. You get nothing out of DeAndre Jordan. He's not there to play. You played Kevon Looney 4 times since January 1st. So that's money you're wasting. DeJounte Murray still has no timetable, and Jordan Poole's out the rotation, and Jordan Hawkins is out the rotation. So you have 5 guys on this roster, and everybody's say, "Oh," but you have 5 guys in your rotation, who should be in your rotation, who are doing nothing for you. They are doing nothing for you. So that's a huge problem. And yes, and I think also you gave away Jose for nothing. Those 2 picks, I think you could have gotten a better player. You got a player that you just cut. If you're gonna, and then you cut him, why would you cut him and not Jordan Hawkins? You're not playing Jordan Hawkins. There's no way Jordan Hawkins is going to be on the roster next year, and you cut the guy who's cheaper. Man, cut Jordan Hawkins. At least give this other dude some run. Give Trey Alexander some run. But what is Jordan Hawkins should be gone. Joe Dumars is killing me, man. Joe Dumars is killing me. All right, y'all. I appreciate it. Y'all sticking with me. Let me see. Let me run real quickly. Hold on. Let me see if I got. All right. We know this team isn't going to rebuild this offseason. What do you think of a guy like Grayson Allen? What are you going to trade for? That's always the question. I like Grayson Allen. I thought the Pelicans should have pursued him in the past when he was with Milwaukee. I thought the Pelicans should have tried to get him, but they missed out. Khalil Ware would be a perfect center to have again. What are you offering? They don't want Jordan Poole. They don't want DeJounte Murray. What are you offering for Khalil Ware? What are you offering? Fear's defense has been improving. Yes, it has. Yes, it has. He's giving more effort on the defense, but he needs size and he needs experience. He's not played NBA defense very often, so it's gonna be an off-season process for him. He's gonna have to watch a lot of film and work with somebody. He's gonna have to find somebody to work with to challenge him on ball defensively, one-on-one in the off-season. And yeah, the Pelicans could have gotten more for Jose. They could have gotten more. And as you can see, like, you see what he's doing with the Knicks. Goes 8 threes, 5 assists, 5 steals in 20 minutes. Yeah, he's happy to be gone. Be back home. Like, you sure the honeymoon period will end, but dang, I mean, like he was happy. He's happy to be back with in New York and with his Knicks. And I wish him nothing but the best. I wish him nothing but the best. All right, y'all. I appreciate you for tuning in. I'll be back next week after the break, probably on Tuesday. We'll do that. Or maybe I'll be back this weekend to talk about the rookies' performance at All Star Weekend. So we'll see about that. But until next week, this has been the Post Up right here on Boo Crew Media. Again, like it, follow it, share it, whatever you can. Follow on social media at DM Grub. Y'all have a great weekend. Happy Mardi Gras. Talk to you later.